This week in prehistoric news, a vanished wave of humans who left Africa 100,000 years ago resurfaces in the genetic record, while 1.77 million year old Homo erectus skulls in China upend known timelines, and fresh evidence argues that they may have spoken. Neanderthals curated horned skulls in a cave for mysterious reasons. Europe's last hunter-gatherers outlast expectations, and the Portuguese Lapido's child identity is rewritten. From Stone Age proto-writing and feathered funerary finery to 14,000-year-old Alaskan ivory tools charting the first Americans, plus a spiky dinosaur with unprecedented skin, a new Brazilian sauropod, and a volcano-sealed cave yielding 16 never-seen fossils. Okay, let's dig in. In a paper published in Science Advances, 1.77 million year old Homo erectus crania in China, a new isochron burial dating study pins the Yunxian hominin bearing layer in Hubei, China, at roughly 1.77 million years ago. That would make the oldest in situ Homo erectus fossils found in Eastern Asia, broadly contemporaneous with Dmanisi, from about 1.78 to 1.85 million years ago. The team directly dated quartz from the fossil layer, ruling out reworked sediments and tightening the out of Africa timeline. This pushes secure hominin presence east of the Caucasus to central China far earlier than many have previously accepted, and narrows the gap between very old Chinese tool sites like Shangchen, about 2.1 million years ago. Debate remains over anatomy versus age, but a third better preserved Yunxian skull may decide this soon. Next up, Neanderthal horned crania accumulation shaped by a cave rockfall in Spain. A geostatistical spatial refit study at Descubierta Cave in the Lozoya Valley near Madrid shows at least 35 deliberately modified large herbivore crania from bovine, cervids, and rhinoceroses that were repeatedly placed in a narrow gully during the Middle Paleolithic, while successive rockfalls from the roof built a cone of debris. Distinct spatial patterns separate cultural material from clasts, with refits indicating limited post-depositional movement. Preservation varies with position on the cone, better in the central lower areas, more fragmented where erosion and speleotherm collapse concentrated debris. The work supports a recurrent, non-subsistence, likely symbolic behaviour by Neanderthals rather than a single event. And why this matters, it strengthens the evidence for complex, possibly symbolic practices by Neanderthals through rigorous formation process analysis. And published in Nature, Europe's last hunter-gatherers survived for millennia longer than expected. Ancient genomes from individuals dated between 8,500 and 1,700 BCE across Belgium, Germany, and the Netherlands reveal that in riverine and coastal lowlands, farming arrived around 4,500 BCE without major genetic turnover. Local hunter-gatherers selectively adopted farming practices, with genomic signals showing mostly incoming farmer women marrying into forager groups. High hunter-gatherer ancestry persists until around 2,500 BCE, when later populations mixed more broadly. This refines Europe's classic tripartite ancestry model and shows strong regional persistence. And this effectively reshapes the timeline and mechanism of Europe's Neolithic transition, highlighting female-driven knowledge transfer and regional resilience. In a paper published in PNAS, researchers digitized around 3,000 marks on 260 objects from Swabian caves, for example, the 40,000-year-old Vogelherd mammoth, and found the symbol system's statistical complexity comparable to proto-cuneiform around 3,500 BCE. Patterns differ by object class, dots absent on tools, crosses absent on human depictions, implying intentional sign choices. They don't claim it's writing, but a structured sign system that transmitted complex ideas long before Mesopotamian scripts. It suggests that the cognitive scaffolding for writing systems emerged tens of thousands of years earlier than expected. The next story, 14,000-year-old ivory workshop in Alaska, links to Clovis traditions. At the Holzman site in Alaska's Tanana Valley, a 14,000-year-old mammoth ivory working locus, complete with a nearly complete female mammoth tusk and a hammerstone, predates Clovis by around 600 years. The toolkit and behaviour echoes Clovis craftsmanship farther south from around 13,400 years ago, supporting an inland migration through an ice-free corridor after crossing the Bering Land Bridge, though some researchers stress that coastal and inland routes likely both contributed. And this adds an early, well-preserved north interior evidence for the peopling of the Americas and cultural links with later Clovis. And here's one that's a little close to home for me here in Portugal, where I live. The Lapido child, redated to 28,000 years ago. Using compound-specific radiocarbon dating of bone collagen hydroxyproline, researchers refined the age of Portugal's famous Lapido child to around 27,800 to 28,600 years ago, well after most accepted Neanderthal survival dates, which are often around 32,000 to 40,000 years ago. The Gravettian context, ochre, and ornaments fit modern human burials. Mixed anatomical traits likely reflect older Neanderthal ancestry, persisting in early Europeans rather than a recent hybridization event. And this reframes a decades-long debate, showing inherited admixture signatures rather than late Neanderthal survival. Onto some dinosaur news now. A new iguanodontian dinosaur from China had hollow skin spikes. Howlong-Dongi, around 125-million-year-old juvenile iguanodontian from northeast China, preserves an unprecedented skin covering of parallel, rear-pointing hollow spikes around the neck, back, and flanks, distinct from scales, armor, or feathers. Their function is unclear, but authors favour anti-predator defence over insulation, display, or sensory roles. Some spikes exceed 44 millimetres, and pigmentation was not detected. And this expands the known repertoire of dinosaur integument and other defence strategies. Next, over to Thailand, where ochre in Thai burials tracks shifting beliefs from the Neolithic to the Iron Age. Synthesizing multiple sites in Thailand from around 2300 to 200 BC and later, researchers show red ochre use varies by time and region. Heavy body application at coastal Neolithic Kok Phan Dom D from around 2300 to 1500 BC, pellet nodule placement in the Bronze Age inland cemeteries from around 1050 to 430 BCE. Peaking near heads and feet and paired with fertility symbols from bivalve shelves. Ochre declines by the Iron Age after 420 BCE, aligning with changing mortuary ideologies and South Asian contacts. Ochre acts as a sensitive proxy for identity, mobility, technology, and evolving mortuary cosmologies in prehistoric Southeast Asia. Next up, in a paper that's not been peer-reviewed yet in Research Square, early Homo sapiens in a man from 109,000 to 95,000 years ago vanished with aridification. 4 Dhofar sites preserve Nubian Levallois tools and African-linked technology dating 109 to 95,000 years ago, likely enabled by 115,000-year sea level low, narrowing the Bab al-Mandab Strait to around 5 kilometers. Paleo lakes and cave drip water signal a humid window. The technology then disappears around 93,000 years ago as rapid aridification sets in. Parallel age Nubian Levallois in the eastern Mediterranean hints at dual dispersals. Neither left lasting genetic traces. And this shows that the early out of Africa pulses were climate fragile, failed dispersals like this one potentially, preceding the successful colonization after around 80,000 years ago. Over to Alaska, in our next story, where 14,000-year-old ivory tools and ochre expand early American lifeways. Beyond tools manufacture, the Holzman finds include ochre, often used ceremonially, and excellent organic preservation. For example, 13,600-year-old bison hair and ancient plant DNA, indicating rich cultural behaviour in interior Alaska before Clovis. Scholars caution against a single root story, but see strong inland south continuity in materials and techniques. And this broadens the cultural toolkit visible in the earliest secure American sites and underscores the need to investigate the ice-free corridor more directly. Next over to Brazil, where a new sauropod hints at early Cretaceous South America-Europe links. Dasosaurus tocantiniensis, around 120 million years old, from the Itapecuru Formation, is a non-titanosaur. Somphospondylion, showing closest affinities to Spain's Garambatitan from around 122 million years ago. Biogeographic modelling favours a European origin for the clade, dispersing to South America via North Africa between 137 to 113 million years ago, before Atlantic widening severed the routes. And this refines early Cretaceous dinosaur migration pathways across the Gondwanan European corridors. Over to some more incredible finds, where microscopic fibres reveal 7,000-year-old fur and feather finery in Sweden. Using water-assisted fibre separation on sediments from 35 Mesolithic graves at Skateholm 1 and 2 in southern Sweden around 7,000 years ago, researchers identified micro-remains of waterbird feathers, raptors and owls, bast fibres, and mustelid and feline hairs, revealing elaborate headgear and even multicoloured footwear combining fur and feathers. That's pretty neat. Several empty graves yielded organic traces missed in digs past. And this matters because it unlocks the clothing and potential details where organic preservation is poor, transforming our view of Mesolithic dress and symbolism. Over to New Zealand this time, where a cave sealed by ash layers preserves a million-year-old window of vanished fauna. Fossils trapped between volcanic ash layers dated to around 1.55 million years and 1 million years ago on New Zealand's North Island reveal at least 12 ancient bird species and 4 frogs, some new to science, and suggest that 33 to 50% of species went extinct long before humans arrived. Climate swings and super eruptions likely drove turnover. Finds include an ancestor of the modern takahe and an extinct pigeon akin to Australian bronzewings. This shows the natural upheavals reshaped New Zealand's ecosystems well before human impact, filling a major fossil gap at the same time. And now back to our final story about Homo erectus. Did Homo erectus have spoken language? I think this is the second paper that I've seen this week, looking into the possible language use of early hominins. A review marshals brain volume and EQ data, human-like frontal regions in some groups, vocal tract and hyoid descent, loss of laryngeal air sacs, human-range spinal canal for respiratory control, and hearing suited to speech. It argues that human-specific substitutions likely predate 1.8 to 1.9 million years ago, and that behaviours, things like Acheulean tool making from around 1.7 million years ago, controlled fire, for example, Vonderwerk Cave around a million years ago, a possible seafaring to Flores around 850,000 years ago, implying teaching and linguistic coordination. While circumstantial, the converging lines support at least some Homo erectus populations having vocal language. And this reframes language evolution as deep-rooted, aligning cognition, anatomy, and culture far earlier than usually assumed. For more on the topic of early language, you might want to take a look at a book by Stephen Mithen called The Language Puzzle: How We Talked Our Way Out of the Stone Age. I found this on Amazon this week, so I'll share a link to it in the description below. Okay, so all the articles used and image credits in this video will be found in the description. So that's it for this week. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up, subscribe down below, and I will see you next week.